Okay, 6:05. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us to hear this wonderful conversation between USAA, IBM, Henkel, and Edwards Life Sciences about how do I begin my job search. We will have a quick introduction. I will introduce the speakers, tell you about upcoming events. There's not a presentation for this. It's more a conversation. You are encouraged to unmute yourselves and ask your questions or write them in the chat or raise your hand. But they really want to meet you and get to know you. So an hour goes by very fast. So if you want to unmute yourself, please do so. And then I will share a link and a QR code in the chat for you to evaluate the event. Please, that helps us incredibly in how to make these better and also provide feedback to these amazing companies about the event that they just hosted today. So my name is Ana Rodriguez. I'm currently responsible for event content of pretty much a whole lot of activities at SHIP. And I do that via the Research and Impact Office. I have a doctorate degree from the University of Massachusetts in Amherst in organizational development and training. I'm pleased to know that I went there when Christopher Columbus left me there after he was going to discover America. I have been working at SHIP right now. It says 5 years, it's 6 years this past September. And I was gifted a lifetime membership last year, which I am was very honored and emotional of receiving. And I am passionate about cooking and riding my bike. Well, that's enough about me. Let's talk about Cesar Rivera from USAA. Cesar is a software engineer too, where he contributes to the visualization infrastructure support team. He focuses on building and developing automations for Tableau to ensure smooth experience for over 20,000 users. Cesar is a graduate of Prairie View A&M University, earning his bachelor's degree in computer science in 2021. Before joining USAA, he gained valuable experience working as a software engineer on the data science Alexa shopping team, where he contributed to enhancing Alexa's data capabilities and improving skills for the device. Throughout his career, Cesar has developed a passion for creating efficient and scalable solutions. He's always eager to learn and apply new technologies that can make an impact. Beyond work, Cesar is dedicated to personal growth and enjoys spending quality time with his dog Canela, that the picture here shows. Whether he's diving into the latest video games, hitting the gym for a workout, or exploring new programming concepts, Cesar seeks a balance between professional and personal pursuits, making time to enjoy his hobbies while continually expanding his expertise. We also have Isabela Rocha from IBM. Isabela is a senior technical product marketing manager at IBM. She's originally from Brazil. She has worked in cybersecurity since graduating with a degree in computer science. She's passionate about sustainability and innovation, and Isabela always strives to inspire the next generation of STEM professionals. We also have Sara Cerruto from Henkel. Sara Cerruto is a Henkel recruiting partner. Sara joined the Henkel Talent Acquisition Team in September 2023 and supports full-time and intern recruitment. Prior to joining Henkel, Sara facilitated and delivered programming for students at the University Hartford as a leadership professor and supported women's education initiatives as a program director. In her primary role as the Leadership Education and Development Program Director, she facilitated bi-weekly leadership sessions for more than 100 undergraduate women, identifying students. During these sessions, students develop pragmatic life skills, receive resiliency coaching, network with community professionals, engage in community service projects, and acquire the tools needed to navigate the journey into and through college. She also served as an assistant director of transfer admission and university evaluator at the University of Hartford, where she supported non-traditional students' educational journeys. She holds a Master's of Science in Business Management from the University of Hartford and a Bachelor's of Science in Communication Disorders from the University of Connecticut. She currently resides in Brooklyn, New York. And we have Mary Carmen Becerra Núñez from Edwards Life Sciences. Mari Carmen is a university relations specialist and recruiter with Edwards Life Sciences, a medical device company based in Irvine, California. For the past 10 years, her focus has been on recruiting early career professionals and academic talent across the private sector and higher education. In her current role, she leads the recruitment strategy for the information technology internships and co-leads engineering recruitment at Edwards. In previous roles, she has worked at Microsoft, Amazon, and the University of Washington's Office of Minority Affairs and Diversity. As a first-generation college student, she navigated through nonlinear education path, first as a community college student, transferring from Seattle University, double majoring in sociology and LatinX, gender and sexuality studies, and ultimately achieving a master's degree in multicultural education from the University of Washington. Her passion for serving and celebrating historically marginalized voices continues through volunteering with the Achievement Institute of Scientific Studies, serving high school students in the Santa Ana and the Association of Latino Professionals for America, the first Latino professional association in the United States, established in Los Angeles in 1972. She proudly represents Nayarit, Mexico, where her family originates. She was born in San Jose, California, raised in Seattle, lived in Brooklyn, New York to fulfill a dream, and currently resides in Orange County, California. So with that, I want you all, we're working on identifying the December LatinX factor. These new LatinX factor have changed. There's not going to be a presentation for the most part. This is going to be a conversation. We want to be, for this event tonight, to be extremely interactive and for you to show your face and have these wonderful people representing these amazing companies see you and recognize you. Most of the representatives here will be at our convention, and imagine that they get to meet you tonight and then they can get to say hello if you're coming to convention next month. So that being said, I am stopped sharing my screen and I will leave you now with our presenters. Now, let me shut this down. So I have a question for you. You know, convention is coming very soon. It's in like a couple of weeks. So what are some tips you can offer for first-time conference attendees? And Sarah, please tell us first. What do you think?
Yeah. Yes, thanks for that beautiful introduction, Anna. Really appreciate it. And hello, good evening. I am on the East Coast, so it is evening for me. As Anna mentioned, my name is Sarah Cerruto. I want to lead and first applaud you for joining this conversation, because these active steps are great steps to take in really preparing for this amazing conference and opportunity that you all have coming up. So some tips that I would say in an effort to prepare to meet some of us at the SHIP conference would first and foremost be to ensure that your LinkedIn pages are up to date. If you have a LinkedIn, I realize some of you may be in different years of your undergrad experience. And when I was in higher education, we really encouraged students to start their freshman year and really create that LinkedIn page, write the clubs and organizations that you are a part of, add the experiences that you've had in your undergrad experience or during your high school experience, because each experience that each of you have gone through is integral to really identifying what your next step may be, whether that's an internship, a co-op, a leadership rotational program. So my number one pro tip would absolutely be having that LinkedIn page up to date. Because myself as a recruiter, I am a part of Henkel. The number one thing that I look for is, or look at, I should say, is individuals' LinkedIn pages, because it really gives me an inside glimpse of who you are beyond just your resume or beyond your CV. There's also ways to make it authentically you and like who you are as an individual, which I really appreciate. So there could be kind of like a catchphrase of who you are, right? So Isabella loves sustainability. So that may be something that she wants to target in her LinkedIn page. If you're a part of any volunteering organizations or on campus organizations that resonate really deeply with who you are, aside from just your major, that would want to be, on your LinkedIn profile. So that is my number one pro tip. I am going to pass the baton to see if any of my other wonderful colleagues on the call have any other tips that they would like to share. But definitely keep that LinkedIn page up to date. And of course, happy to answer any questions that anyone may have and jump in. This is an open dialogue. We don't want to be the ones talking the entire time, and we want to be here to serve you. So I'm going to pass the baton to Caesar because he's right next to me in regards to some of your pro tips for preparing for the SHIP conference.
Yeah, I definitely feel like you hit a lot of things that should be done. And essentially the best way to sum up why you should be kind of putting these things on your resume, on your LinkedIn, of what you are doing is essentially that you want to build your brand in order to sell yourself to these companies. That's the most important thing. That's the way I like to think of what I guess the ultimate goal is just to build that brand and make sure you're selling yourself to who you are and what you want to do when you are at that full-time position. Another thing that I definitely felt like helped me whenever I was looking for either internship or full-time job was putting some projects that I was working on that weren't necessarily assigned to me, because I was able to showcase that I'm not afraid to step out of my comfort zone and build up that skill to go out, research, and work on things that I don't have full 100% experience on. That helped a lot with setting me apart from the crowd, because there is a lot of people that we're going to be competing with when you are going to these conferences. So that little small, I want to say 10% of going above and beyond will definitely have a major impact when it comes down to speaking to these companies. Not sure if anybody else has anything else to say, Mary Carmen or Isabella.
Yeah. I mean, all that's been said has been great. I think even just putting yourself out there and that like here's who I am, here's what I'm looking for, and here are my resources that I am sharing with you. So I know as myself, like when I first started going to conferences, the first one, I felt so overwhelmed because there's so many people and so many booths, and you're just like, how am I going to get through all of this content? Because it all sounds great. So make a plan for the conference and then do your research beforehand to see who's going to be there and who you want to talk to. Because this is going to be more about you and less about us as attendees. And we're going to be sharing a ton of information, or people are going to be so willing to like meet you. So you just have to create a strategy for yourself and say, what do I want to get out of this conference? Do I want to network with professionals that can share their journey with me? Am I looking for an internship? Am I looking for a full-time opportunity? And then the other thing that I really enjoy when I meet candidates out on the road is if they have like their little elevator pitch, like who are you, where are you located, what you're looking for, and how I can get in contact with you. Because I've met so many people that I meet so many people at these conferences. There's some that are very memorable, and it's usually the people that like have it really well, like a well put together introduction, and share a fun fact about themselves. I'm like, wow, like one person shared that they had gone around the country trying different ice creams for a project. I'm like, that was, that was like 4 years ago that I met this person. I was like, how did you even go tasting like ice creams? Like, what is that relation? They're a chemist and they now ultimately work at Ben and Jerry's. And I'm like, that was a perfect like intro. Like you would have never gotten to that if you wouldn't have expressed like, this is who I am, this is what my interest areas are, and how can I combine those things together. Anything to add, Isabella?
Yes, everything said, so good. I recommend everything. Another thing too that all of you should keep in mind is when you go into the interview process, as much as companies are going to interview you, you're also at the end of the day interviewing these companies because their benefits or their day-to-day life, that's what you want to see combined with what you love. So when you do go into these conferences, like they said, do your research about which companies are going to be there. Try to see what the companies are doing that are interesting and connects with you, and then make it a priority to speak to them, but already bring something to the conversation about, hey, I already know that you guys are working on this. This really interests me. I've been studying this, and I think if it's really great with what you guys are bringing to the table. So that already starts a conversation based on the research that you already did. And you're also finding yourself in the company as well. So just make sure that you're connecting what you love to where you want to go next.
That is awesome. Thank you all. I have another question here. Please unmute yourself. This is a very safe space. And Sarah, as a recruiter, what are some things you look for in the LinkedIn About Me section? Should it be the same as the elevator pitch?
Great question. Thank you for asking. So I feel like that's a unique question depending on the recruiter. So what I personally look for is I look for ensuring that like your authentic voice and who you are is coming across in that LinkedIn platform. Another thing that I do look for is there's actually ways where you can write recommendations or request recommendations from professors or individuals that you have worked with in the past, that they know your character, your work ethic, they've worked with you in some kind of capacity. So I personally look at the recommendations area. And then some other places that are kind of near and dear to my heart is your volunteering and your involvement in your community. So different leadership opportunities that you may have held, doesn't necessarily need to be a leadership opportunity, but ways that you're engaging and being involved on campus. So there are ways to add those extracurriculars into your LinkedIn profile. So that would be advantageous. The other thing too is that you can actually add your actual resume into your LinkedIn profile so that we as recruiters can go and kind of see your resume in real time. So recommendation may be just aligning that as you progress through your educational experience. So those are a few things I personally look for, though I know it's different for each representative that may be looking through LinkedIn channels. I hope that's helpful.
That is helpful. I have another question, unless anybody else from this wonderful companies wants to add to what Sarah said. Okay, so I have, how can we showcase that we are really interested in X company without sounding broad, generic in a pool of people who have the same interests and goals?
Storytelling. So I find that what makes everyone different in their like own unique journey is that their authentic journey as to how they got to where they are. The art of storytelling is a really wonderful thing that I would implore you all to lean into. So even in each of our bios of some of the professionals on the call, I feel like I learned so much about each individual because it shared a little bit more about their story and who they are and like where their passions align with, right? So the art of storytelling and kind of sharing different aspects of what you got to that time and space in your life really opens up the heart, I think, of a lot of professionals and gives a little bit more color to who you are rather than just saying, I'm studying economics, right? It's like, okay, but why are you studying economics? Oh, well, my grandparents or my dad was in economics. He and I would study when we were at a young age. He would show me and talk about the stock market. And, I just grew my passion from that. So that ability to draw out and kind of highlight your storytelling, in my opinion, is a way to differentiate you from others. But I'm all ears to what other folks on the call may say in that way.
One thing that I did feel like I got very good feedback from, or good follow-up steps from doing, is that whenever I am speaking to these recruiters is beforehand, sometimes there's gonna be a long line. So I would quickly get on my phone, do a little bit of research as to what current projects or announcements the company has made. And whenever I'm speaking to the recruiter, kind of tie that into my story of how that impacts me, why that announcement stood out to me, how I can contribute to the goals the company is, I want to say, going towards. I felt like that really helped me stand from the crowd whenever I was talking to these recruiters.
Awesome. Anybody else? Please unmute yourselves and ask your questions. I have another question here. I will post it in the chat. What are some ways candidates can stand out to recruiters? And I have not heard from you, Isabela, if you can, and Mari Carmen, so I'll leave this to you.
I think the best way to stand out is really to bring yourself more. I see a lot of people who go for jobs, and the first thing they say is, here's my 4.0 GPA. Here are all the skill sets that I have that fit the job. Like, all of those are going to be fantastic. Obviously, like, you worked really hard to get all of those accomplishments. But what's really going to differentiate you is, how do you think outside the box? Like, what are the unique perspectives you're going to bring to work? Do you maybe want to achieve more things than your project, for example, and actually build ideas to better the world in general, right? So I think it's really important to bring your unique self. Obviously, the accomplishments weigh a lot, but don't downplay all the experiences that you've been through as an individual that contributes to who you are as a candidate.
Oh, that was so well said. Really just like it's so true though. It's something that you bring yourself as an individual to the company, but you've already had life experiences that you can also share. That's part of who you are. Yes, it's your skill set that you're bringing to the table, but you're also offering yourself as a tool for the company to use itself, right? And so you're not an empty vessel. You're a person that has all of these things and all of these great qualities to share. I think oftentimes we hear about like imposter syndrome. I've been reading a lot about what that is and how kind of it's been exemplified, but realistically, more than a syndrome, it's like we maybe historically haven't been here. So when we show up, we have to show up with our whole selves in an authentic way and really feel confident about the skill sets that we're bringing. So that's also something really important because I can see that shine through when someone's talking to me as a recruiter, and I'm like, oh, okay, great. Like, yes, you're an excellent student, but what do I not see on this paper that tells me about yourself and why you want to be at this company directly? I think for Edwards Life Sciences, it's not a name that's a household name. And so there is people that have done their research. So even if it's like Cesar's tip of just like looking up the company while you're waiting in line to talk to someone, so you have a baseline knowledge of what this company is, and maybe it's a class that you've taken that's related to this. So we recruit a lot of biomedical engineers. They have done, like USC, for example, has like a cardiac research center. And there's people that are like, wow, I didn't even know about Edwards. It's in our backyard. So it's just one of those like little instances where it's like, I already know about the company. I'm a little bit connected. Here is the way that you can reach out to me and contact me. And I want to be memorable to you and share a little bit of my personality as well.
Excellent. Awesome responses. So how important, let me see. What if you're not able to attend the conference? What is a good way to connect with recruiters?
What you guys are doing right now. I feel like this is a great way because there's a smaller crowd. And then that's basically easier for us to remember you guys by. Second, LinkedIn, shooting us a message. If you see a post on the job, I want to say board that the company has, that's a good way in order to reach out to a recruiter. Just to say like, hey, I saw this job posted. It really stood out to me. Sent my resume over. Wanted to see if you could give me any advice or yada yada yada. That's a really really good way. So the best way are definitely, these type of smaller conference or events. And second would be LinkedIn.
Awesome. Putting another question, how important is networking when searching for a job? And what is the best way to approach it as a student?
I feel very strongly about this one because every job I've ever had is because of networking. So it's so important. And the easiest way to do it is by not thinking it's networking, with you just creating friends in the business, and even people who you don't think are connected to what you do at all. Then down the line, you see that there was a huge connection that you couldn't even have foreseen, and they bring you amazing opportunities. So I think it's just connecting with as many people as you can. Everyone's going to bring something new and exciting for you to think about. And yeah, you never know where the next opportunity is going to be. So just connecting with people, understanding what projects they're a part of, trying to connect yourself into them as well. It's just a great way to explore and even find new hobbies and passions that you want in your career.
Awesome.
Yeah, that I would just add on to that, Isabella, as well. I loved how you said that networking doesn't have to be at those conference settings where it feels a little stressful, kind of going up to the booth, introducing yourself. Passively networking is the best thing ever. So all of you are currently at a university or a community college, wherever you are, and you have a lot of amazing opportunities to passively network with faculty, staff, people that may head some of the sports teams. So ability to connect there and see if there are opportunities within that circle to look outside. One thing that I used to do with my group of students when I taught at the University of Hartford was we would do like a career connections orbit. So you would write in the center one individual that you know personally, right? Someone in your circle. That could be your aunts, your uncles, that could be a family friend, it could be your professor who teaches sociology. And then from that person, you have a conversation with them and say, I see myself working in business analytics when I graduate from college. Do you know anyone in that circle that I could connect with and have a one-on-one 20-minute informational conversation to learn more about their journey? Because the thing about people is people love talking about themselves. Whether we like to believe it or not, people love talking about their experiences. So generally, of course, they're going to be welcoming of having a conversation with you as someone that's looking to identify their next professional step in life. So the Career Connections Orbit has been a really great tool that I would implore all of you to utilize in expanding your network and looking around you of just who's in your unique circle that you can lean on for more networking opportunities outside of, bigger conferences.
Awesome. Cesar, Isabella, Mari Carmen, any other comments?
One thing I would say is that one thing I found whenever I was an undergraduate that made networking very easy is putting myself in very vulnerable positions where I'm very, I want to say introverted, but I put myself in a very vulnerable position that, well, opinion based, obviously, because I'm introverted. And I ran for president for my ship chapter. And just holding an e-board position, I found that really helps project how easy it's going to be for you to network. Whenever I was holding e-board positions in my local ship chapter, I found that 50% of the work that I had to do for networking was being done because of the position I was holding. So you don't have to be a president. Of course, just holding any sort of e-board position really helps a lot. And then you don't have to be part of SHIP necessarily. There's other organizations out there. You can also help organize community events without being part of an organization. That really helps out with doing this networking and really breaks the ice as to how you're going to start these conversations.
Awesome. So how can students with limited experience make their resume stand out to recruiters?
Oh, can I go?
Yes, yes, please.
So I would say for we've said it before in listing courses that you've taken that are related to the job description you're applying for. So first and foremost, looking at the job description and saying, okay, do I meet the minimum qualifications for this role? If the answer is this, yes, then you continue on with the job description. I remind people of that because it's important that you don't want to be spending your time just filling out applications that you might not be competitive for or that you're interested in. You really want to tailor those experiences. So say you find an industry that you really like and a company within that industry is going to be at this conference. And say you're in your freshman year and just barely approaching maybe a sophomore year, or your sophomore year's going into junior year. That's the type of resumes that I often see that are very course-based, and they're based on also personal projects that you've done. Maybe you've taught yourself how to use a particular software, or you have volunteered at a food bank, or you have you have very specific home responsibilities and you take care of your siblings. Believe it or not, that is a very good quality that I look for in students whose resumes aren't necessarily like employment-based history, because that tells me, one, that you're a responsible person, that people are relying on you, that you have good communication skills, that that you're entrusted with something that's very valuable, like siblings, or maybe you are, you hold a part-time job that's not related to anything. So say maybe you work in the food industry, you still have to go like through food handler's permit, where you've taken a course that tells me that you're showing up on time, that you're employed. So it really highlights the skill sets. You want to be able to highlight those things of just like what have you learned from these experiences that might not be paid, but that are opportunities that you have showed that you can perform that skill and accomplish a task. So I think that's a good foundation. I think I'm going to call on Sarah too. Do you prefer Sarah or Sada?
Sarah, but I
Sarah.
love both.
Okay.
I love both.
Just putting that out there. Okay,
Yes,
Sarah, passing it on to you.
Absolutely. Made just wonderful points. Love the idea of adding coursework that's relative to what you're looking for. And the reality of the situation is a lot of the students on this call are just looking for an internship or kind of that time to gain experience. And so what you really have to leverage, to Mary Carmen's point, is leverage your soft skills and ability to pivot and to have a lot of transferable skills that you can use, especially when you are speaking to a recruiter, of how your soft skills would translate really well into the X internship or co-op or full-time job that you're applying for. I mean, when I was in many of your shoes, I had babysitting experience on my resume until I got my first real-time internship. However, I was taking coursework that I did write on my resume, and I was able to position a lot of my soft skills through babysitting, which is time management. It's multitasking. It's multitasking chaos at times, right? So a lot of those transferable skills that you all do in a variety of different sectors, whether that's the restaurant industry, if you're managing at a restaurant, or if you're a server, a lot of those soft skills are equally advantageous and important to really leverage when you are having conversations with recruiters. And you don't necessarily have to have already had an internship to prove that and to position that. So that is a real bias that I would say we're against that, right? We want to highlight your willingness to learn and to grow. We want to highlight your on-campus leadership activity, public speaking, seminars, SHIP conferences that you've attended, like really reposition it frame it, I should say, with the positives of what you uniquely would bring into this next chapter of your life.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Please unmute yourselves. This is supposed to be a conversation. Get yourself out there. Show your face, ask your questions. Anyone, please? It's a safe space, really. You want these wonderful people to meet you at convention and to recognize you. So now's your chance. Okay, I don't see any hands up. What is any tips for an elevator pitch?
Mm-hmm.
And Catherine, unmute yourselves and give us a little bit more details. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? Catherine, are you with us? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Sarah.
Sure, no problem. So I'm just looking at the questions here, and I think the question.
Catherine is commuting. She cannot unmute herself. So go ahead.
Oh, no problem. So is the question how to position your elevator pitch? Is that?
I'm not sure. So she said, any tips for an elevator pitch? And if she's commuting, and if she's driving, I don't want her to.
Okay. No worries. So I'm gonna bring it back. So essentially what an elevator pitch is it's like your 30, 45-minute spiel about who you are as an individual and what you unique. I know we keep saying unique. It feels like a buzzy word, but it's so important of what you bring into the fold of stepping into that organization. So typically what you would do is you would go meet the recruiter, firm handshake. If you're comfortable with that, eye contact is really important. Introduce yourself, share a little bit about your major, what you're studying, some on-campus activities that you are involved with, and what you would bring to the organization. I know throughout a few of us have mentioned that knowing the mission and the values of the company is really important. So at Henkel, for example, we have a strong niche in sustainability, pioneers at heart, right? We want to protect our consumers and individuals that are a part of our Henkel network, whether that's our customers, our consumers, and the people that work with us. So being able to position your elevator pitch to get very specific with the recruiter or the company that you're talking to is really advantageous. And then at the end, you can say, if you are open to it, I would invite to have schedule a 10 to 15 minute conversation with you after the conference. Are you open to do that? Right? Like end it with an ask. If that recruiter would be open to connecting with you after the conference, because that's the tricky thing about the conference. It's usually the follow-up. So in the essence of following up, having a nice thank you email, thank you note, really goes a long way in the essence of gratitude. So those would be some of my, for an elevator pitch, my tips that I would share.
Awesome. Anybody else? Cesar, Isabella, Mari Carmen?
I'd say practice the pitch as well. Have it be kind of like every time someone asks you in the room to introduce yourself, like that's the elevator pitch you're doing. Like multiple times is going to help it be more natural. I am a very, very visual person. I'm a visual learner. So I used to make myself little cards and I'm like, what are 3 points that I want to get across? By the time this person leaves, like I want them to know 3 things about me. And then 1 thing that you're looking for. So if you are speaking to someone that has an opportunity that's available, say, hey, I'm interested in applying. I will be applying. Maybe what do you specifically look for these? Like what makes a candidate competitive for the opportunities that you have available? Like it's 1 question that's succinct that's going to get information from the person that you're seeking. If the goal, like identify what that goal is. If you just want them to know who you are, or if you need to get a piece of information from them. I've also found that at first it might feel a little uncomfortable talking about yourself. I practice it in the shower. I practice it as like I'm getting ready. And like you're going to use it forever. Like it's not something that goes away. Like even I'm thinking about the introductions we just did. Like I hadn't heard an introduction about myself in a while, and I was like, wow, I did all those things. That's cool. Kind of like also for yourself, right? Like it's a reminder of like, you are here despite the odds. And it wasn't an easy journey, and you might have not taken the most linear route, but you're here and you're at the conference or you're in this space, and taking that opportunity, I think, is also very important for you. So just identifying what those top 3 traits that you want to share and what the outcome of the conversation is will be really helpful.
Awesome. Okay. So how important is it to build your brand when searching for a job? And I would like all to hear from all of you as we are 6:45. What do you think about this question, and what ideas can you give to our participants?
I really love building my brand because it just allows me to show who I am to a lot of people at once and then connect with them in all those different ways. So, like we've talked about LinkedIn so many times, I feel like, yeah, it's just repetition at this point, but LinkedIn is such a good platform for you to build your brand because not only can you add those courses, those different schools that you attended, volunteering, and so forth, but that's also where you can show your unique self, show what you're doing. I post things all the time about being with Familia at IBM, which is our Hispanic Heritage Month events that I attended, or different conversations that I'm included in. This event right here, I posted it. So it's just little things like that that will get people knowing, okay, this is what Bella likes to do. This is what she likes to be, she's motivated by, and so forth. So that offers doors for people to reach out, connect with you. Even companies all the time will see different skill sets that I show in events that I don't even have as on my LinkedIn profile, but maybe in an event I showcase the skill set that they then say, oh, Bella, like, can you tell us more about this? So it even streamlines the application process for you. So instead of you having to apply to numerous things, you'll have recruiters already see you and say, hey, they might be a great fit for this opening that I have. Let me reach out and see if it fits them. So yeah, it's like automating the job search by you just showing what you love and what you're a part of.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Please continue. How important is it to build your brand when searching for a job? Mari Carmen?
Yes. So yes, LinkedIn is definitely one of those tools that, as in a professional setting, it's like your social media to network and get to know promotions. Like as a recruiter, it's also one of the first places that I meet candidates, or they look for my information afterwards. But that's just kind of in the digital world. I think you also have to like live your brand. And if it's authentic to yourself, then it's easier to do than trying to create a persona that you're trying to be. I think it's important to like emulate some of those skill sets that you're attempting to be, but like it's not going to always be like perfect. It's going to also be messy, and you're going to have to maybe fail a little bit, and don't fear the failing of like, okay, if I tried something and it didn't work, like I'm not going to try it again. Like it's going to take a while to build up. So your brand at first might be that you are currently a student and that you are looking for an opportunity. But it can also be like, I am a person who really likes volunteering, right? And that is now, because it's been part of my brand for so long. I can remember volunteering when I was in 6th grade, 5th grade. And I'm still now doing it in a professional setting because it's a key important part to who I am. And as soon as I got to this company 2.5 years ago, I was like, volunteering is part of my identity. It's part of what I like doing. Who here on this campus does volunteering that I can do at a larger scale? Because every company has like a volunteer, like a foundation. And right now I run like on my kind of personal time, but it's part of now my job too. We work with an organization called Mended Little Hearts, and we create like bags for children who've gone through open heart surgeries and their families. And that organization serves the entire West Coast. I wouldn't have made that connection had I not voiced that this is an important part of who I am as a person. And I want to make it part of my professional as well. So it's two things that you can really meld together, and letting people know, like, this is an important topic for me. Like, how can I do this? And oftentimes when I see that in like candidates that are very spirited about things, it makes me want to help them a little bit more, because I'm like, you can tell that passion lives in this person, and it's not something that they see it as a deterrent or something extra that they have to do. It lives within them. And that's something that I want them to embody at the company when I'm also recruiting them. So I think about it as a long-term strategy as well.
Awesome. Cesar?
I was actually thinking ahead. Sorry, I got the quick chat. Because I definitely feel like I want to take a shot at Luis's question. Because I feel like I have something that's very, very similar to his question that he posted on the chat. So not sure if that's okay with you. If not, we can give
No,
it.
no, please, go ahead.
I'll read out the question. So Luis posted on the chat saying, how can students with work experience prior to returning to school to pursue a degree in engineering explain their gap while studying? So far, I have not received positive feedback. And the reason why I said I have a very similar experience is that I was laid off from Amazon in the year of 2023. And I was unemployed for about 8 to 9 months. So that was a pretty big or big for some people, gap. And I just took a break. I was mentally exhausted. I was very demotivated because the recruiters I was talking to in the beginning, prior to recently from getting laid off, they were getting laid off too. So there was just companies ghosting me left and right. So I just took a break. Whenever I was ready to go again to start interviewing, searching for that full time, I was getting asked in every single interview, hey, why such a large gap? Why such a large gap? And I found myself that it's okay not to give too many details if you're not comfortable with saying it. One thing that I would sometimes say is like, hey, I just had some personal life events that I had to handle so that I can come back to the workforce without any distractions. And if you're very comfortable with explaining what those events were, feel free to give details. Because at the end of the day, you have to understand too, we're all human. Everybody that's interviewing you is talking to you in these conferences. We have emotions. We understand as well that life events occur. So it is perfectly okay if you want to tell us in details or not what kind of made it so that you couldn't continue with pursuing your degree. Why'd you have to take that break? So I'm not sure if that answers your question, Luis, but that was something that I had to deal with as well pretty recently with getting laid off from Amazon and then searching for another full-time experience.
That's great. Thank you, Cesar. I forgot that question. Yes, and I had it very present in my mind. So thank you for bringing that up. Anybody else has this sort of experience of that gap in searching for employment and how to explain that?
I haven't had a gap per se. One thing that I had to navigate was coming from a higher education background and navigating the stepping into a corporate arena. So that was just an example of a time, to Caesar's point, where I really had to over communicate and really explain kind of the reason as to why I was in higher education. I wanted to pursue my MBA in higher education. You could get it for free. I learned a lot of great soft skills. I would be an asset to your team. And it was quite a bit of overcoming that bias of stepping into a corporate space. When in the reality of the situation is, to Caesar's point, we're all humans. We're all open and it's important to really just communicate those things, because a person on the other end should be understanding and empathetic and understand as to how you got to that space in time. So, but that was a great point, Caesar. And that was a great question as well.
Absolutely. I have one last question here. Any advice for handling rejection?
I love that that question like stopped me in my tracks for a second because like it's something that I feel like I've worked on over like the course of my lifetime. And I think that it's almost like it's I used to feel that it was an expectation that was going to happen regardless. So how I took it as well is like I got to be prepared for that rejection, right? Like if someone is saying no to me, like I got to be ready for that no because it's going to hurt or it's going to hurt your feelings or like job searching is so difficult sometimes too. Like to Sarah's point, I also made the pivot back from higher education into the corporate setting. And it was like I was probably applying to close to 25 to 35 jobs a week. And I would say like 95% of those were no's. And the other, like, whatever percentage was like, kindly think about it again, but we're going to consider you. So hold on to the maybes. I think that's kind of how I approach things. It's like, maybe it's not a no, even if there's a no, like that's the worst that can happen. So I also approach that with networking. I bring that like spirits, like maybe this person's going to want to talk to me. Maybe we vibe, maybe we don't, but like I'm going to make the attempt. I'm going to introduce myself. And if they're not taking to this conversation, I move on to the next person and it's okay. So yeah, I would say hold on to the maybes. That's been really helpful.
Great advice. And we are 3 minutes out to end this event. There's one last question from Gabriel Cosio. Where do you suggest we find those volunteer opportunities outside school? I would like to volunteer some of my tech skills, but not sure where to find that.
One thing that you could definitely do is on LinkedIn, just search for like hashtag, for example, San Antonio. See what events are currently happening around the San Antonio location and connect with that person. If there's an event that they hosted or posted about that I want to be interested in order to see if they have any future events that they're doing, or I want to say just see how I can get involved. Another one would be, let's say, for example, I'm a software developer. I want to kind of inspire some of the younger generations to pursue a degree in computer science or just contribute or just learn about coding. One thing I would do is locally around my area, I could go speak to counselor or principal or just somebody that I can speak to in either a high school or middle school and just say, hey, I have this idea that this is what I want to do, and just host a class or just like an afternoon session where I can kind of showcase or show them, hey, this is what a software engineer does. Just speak about that. So those are some of the things I would do.
Awesome.
I don't know if we have time, but I actually recently did this. That's why I wanted to say. So recently, I actually wanted to volunteer with wildlife conservation and all of that, and I didn't even know where to start. And I don't know if this is going to be the best answer, but I'm someone who's obsessed with talking to ChatGPT. If I'm going to be honest. Like sometimes I'll just talk to it and say, "Hey, I like all these things. I'm in this area. Do you know of things that I can volunteer for?" And it does a very nice, like refined search for you to find those pieces and just narrow it down without doing like a general search on like a search engine and then get like 20,000 options. But there's so many opportunities out there for you all to volunteer, and it's really exciting that you guys are passionate about that. So
awesome. So we are 2 minutes out. Any last words? And thank you again, great panelists. Any last words for job advice and preparing for convention? Sir?
Just my last few pieces of advice would have fun with it. Life is supposed to be fun. It's going to be a wonderful experience where you're going to have a lot of takeaways, both in passive conversations, intentional conversations. Use this as an opportunity to kind of grow who you are as a person and to look for your next step in life. And then my shameless plug, Anna, I know you wanted to stop recording whenever we get to that space, is I do have a link that I'm going to share. If you are open to meeting with some of the recruiters from Henkel, I will pop it in the chat when you let me know, Anna.
Okay, so awesome. I will stop recording right now. Any last conversations, last advice before everybody leaves?
One thing I would say I wish that I was told very early on is that do not feel overwhelmed with how much information is given to you. We gave you a bunch of information in this hour, and think of your brain as a sponge, and we just poured a bunch of water onto that sponge. We do not expect you to absorb every single drop of water that we just poured into it. We would like for you guys to at least absorb what is the most important things that you find yourself hearing, and apply it to your, I want to say, your personal self, so that you can wow everybody at the national convention.
Awesome, outstanding. Well, we're at 7. Thank you, Cesar. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Isabela and Mari Carmen, for being here, giving us your time as volunteers to present this fabulous topic. And all the participants who have not left yet, if you're also looking to volunteer, SHIP also has some opportunities. So check our websites to volunteer, to be a volunteer for our national convention, volunteer for our visual STEM labs, volunteer for Equipando Padres as a facilitator. So there's volunteering opportunities all around. Just do your search. Thank you again, USAA, IBM, Henkel, and Edwards Life Sciences, for being here, for your time, and for imparting your knowledge to these wonderful participants. Everybody, have a great evening, and hope to see you on October the 21st for our second LatinX Factor on environmental engineering. So thank you again to all of you, and hope to see most of you at convention.
Thank you. Adios.